Just what is it that makes today's homes so different, so appealing? The housewife, of course, in her conical gingham dress, frilled pinny and feather duster, keeping the home spick and span for her loving husband and their ruddy-cheeked children. Well, that's a 50s cliché, of course, as exemplified by the domestic sitcoms from that decade itself.
Well, whenever we cook inside, Mom always does the cooking. But whenever we cook outside, you always do it. How come?
Well, it's sort of traditional, I guess. You know, they say a woman's place is in the home, and I suppose as long as she's in the home, she might as well be in the kitchen.
Which, in their turn, was satirised by films like Pleasantville so thoroughly that such satires are now clichés in themselves. Wheels within wheels. Anyway, the point is, this spring cleaning episode of The Hard Sell is all about the housework and products designed to facilitate it. Housework, the drudgery traditionally reserved for the women in the machine of our society. While the husband earned a crust, the women kept the household in perfect, right-angled order. The men hunted, the women gathered. That is, until the rediscovery somewhere in the 60s of that irritating thing called free will, which rendered the whole notion of running society along the lines of a clockwork construction where every cog knows its place completely unworkable. The dutiful housewife gradually went from the woman's expected, even demanded role in daily life to a sexist cliché of a less enlightened age.
Girls are kind of lucky, don't they, Mom?
Why do you say that?
Well, they don't have to be smart. They don't have to get jobs or anything. All they got to do is get married.
Well, Beaver, being smart isn't exactly a drawback to marriage.
Well, if they don't get married, well, they can become dressmakers or cut people's nails in a barber shop or take care of kids and a lot of other dumb stuff.
Well, Beaver, today girls can be doctors and lawyers, too, you know. They're just as ambitious as boys are.
You mean there's no dumb people left in the world, Mom?
The operative word being gradually. A symbol embedded that deeply in the public consciousness doesn't die overnight, if at all. It would take a long time before it would even occur to the advertising industry not to centre these products around largely sexless but chirpy housewives, grinning ear to ear as they scrubbed the grime off their baths and sinks to a bouncy close harmony jingle.
It's springtime, so it's flash time.
Flash through your spring cleaning, flash through your spring cleaning, all through the house from the top to the bottom, spring clean quick as a flash.
Nothing spring cleans faster, easier than Flash. Watch it lift that dirt clean away. Even that stubborn dirt that's been building up all winter.
Stop smiling, goddammit! What the hell did I put in that stuff? Nitrous oxide? Or just marijuana?
Flash cleans the whole house. Stairs, cupboards, skirting boards, everywhere. Flash soaks up dirt at a touch. Just once over, no rinsing, no wiping dry. Flash has the job finished faster, easier.
So, flash through your spring cleaning, spring clean quick as a flash. Get Flash!
This next one, from a couple of years later, is a bit more creative, and I don't just mean because it includes a man joining in with the housework.
All around the house, all around the house, all around the house. All around the house, spring clean with Flash. All around the house, spring clean with Flash.
Flash for cleaning all paintwork. There's no rinsing, no wiping dry. Flash cuts spring cleaning time in half. Once over and tiles sparkle.
Flash for painted ceilings. It's so easy with Flash. No suds to rinse and wipe dry. Just once over.
Well, it's his house too. Obviously, he concentrates on manly stuff like ceilings and doors, I guess, because they're more masculine than walls. Okay, maybe I'm reaching, but I wouldn't count on it. I mean, they had to give the man work a proper man voiceover, after all, to prevent cognitive dissonance in the viewer.
Flash for walls, even stubborn marks go. Flash cuts spring cleaning time in half. Flash for lino, just once over. No suds to rinse or wipe dry.
Flash for doors, inside and out. No rinsing, no wiping dry.
All around the house, all around the house. house. All around the house, spring clean with Flash. All around the house, spring clean with Flash. All around the house, spring clean with Flash.
The puppet aesthetic is nice, very pop art, but these days comes across as disturbingly reminiscent of something else.
When you hear the attack warning, you and your family must take cover at once.
Hope it's not a dirty bomb. Oh, fuck you.
All around the house, Flash cuts spring cleaning time in half.
Get Flash!
By the mid-70s, second-wave feminism was abroad all over the Western world, except in commercial breaks, of course. Here, all the usual stereotypes remains intact, despite an increasing sense of outrage and impatience from without. The advertisers were protected for the moment by the fact that the feminists, while loud, and by and large in the right, weren't the mainstream. They were very much still the outsiders yelling at the establishment, and so by definition were not a congregation that advertising, which is all about maximising reach and therefore profit, had to worry about. Just yet. Plans needed to be drawn up for the future, but for now, it was still a-okay to depict women as domestic drudges. You needn't even put a smiley upbeat sheen on it anymore, as seen here.
I'm back.
Hazel McWitch? I didn't know you'd left.
I'm fed up. The more I clean this bath, the duller it looks.
That's scouring powder. In time it'll scratch all the shine off. Use Flash. Look, it's in a bathroom pack too.
Oh.
It's waterproof. And it sprinkles.
My God, you can feel how empty their lives are. You could drop a coin and it would echo for days.
Flash cleans without grit, so it never scratches the enamel.
And the bath keeps it shine.
You pass, with honours.
The honours should go to Flash. I grant you the order of the bath.
Someone buy her a vibrator, for the love of God.
Aye, Flash cleans baths without scratching.
By the mid-90s, it was possible for a household cleaning product to be fronted on a permanent basis by a man, who wasn't a caricature of anything. But we'll come back to that.
Duck's still slobbing in the bath.
No, I'm cleaning the place up for you, my princess.
Oh, you using the cream?
Yes, scrubbing, rinsing. If you'd rather be relaxing than rinsing, try Flash Bathroom. It cleans the place easier than creams, without leaving that powdery residue. A doddle.
Whoa, you must have worked flat out to get it this clean.
Yeah, you could say that. Flash Bathroom does the hard work, so you don't have to.
That product was Flash, and that man was Carl Howman, professional crafty cockney who came across a bit like a Muppet baby Bob Hoskins as frontman for various incarnations of the cleanser from 1995 odd through to the end of the century and beyond.
Ugh.
Hey, I thought you wanted a nice hot bath.
The only thing I'll be scrubbing tonight are those stains.
Leave it to me, love. You go and play with your rubber duck. When the last thing you want to do is mess around with tough stains, you need Flash XL. It makes even stubborn marks a walkover.
Not that these actually subvert the housewife stereotype in any meaningful way. The woman is still fated to scrub. The man takes the job off her hands not out of gallantry, but to earn brownie points, which he will almost certainly cash in sexually. And because he has a shortcut in the shape of Flash. It's still sexist, it's just in a slightly more roundabout way than it used to be.
Easy.
Oh, fantastic. You scrubbed everywhere. Except my back.
Flash XL does the hard work, so you don't have to.
Not that it's particularly complimentary to the male gender either. I mean, advertising demeans everyone, that's what it's for.
Hey, ease up, love. Only the new neighbours coming round, not royalty.
Oh, I'd die if they see these taps. What a mess.
Leave it to me, love. You polish the cat. Forget about all that scrubbing palaver. Flash Bathroom Spray tackles all those awkward bits while you just wipe or rinse the rest. Easy.
Brilliant. You've even done the tough bit. Oh.
Don't forget the red carpet.
Flash, incidentally, is what we have in this country instead of Mr Clean. Yes, the eerie, faintly bohemian Kojak of cleanser is a complete unknown here, due to the name already being trademarked back in the 50s when they tried to launch it. No one remembers who by, but it doesn't really matter anymore, because Flash is too famous a brand name for there to be any point introducing old cotton wool brows over here now. But that doesn't mean we don't have any house-cleaning superhero corporate mascots. The one we have is just more British.
Yours truly, Mr Sheen, has been looking for ways to give you more power to your elbow. Motorised mops, dynamic dusters, souped-up sponges, but then eureka! My new Shine Faster formula with MPE. More power to your elbow. It's creamier, so as you clean, you get more shine for less elbow. Oh, look at that wood. Glass. Enamel. That's my new Shine Faster formula with MPE. More power to your elbow, ladies.
Yes, it's Mr Sheen, the mustachioed flying ace with the voice of Willie Rushton. Mr Sheen was a useful character on a number of levels, not least of which was that he provided a way to advertise polish without needing to bring out the dutiful housewife stereotype. As an animated mascot, he was able to reduce the act of housework itself to an abstraction, flying about in his airplane or a folded-up duster, or even just on the back of the spray can itself, magically making the house tidy through the power of representational symbolism.
How about this for a novel way to polish a bookcase? Yours truly, Mr Sheen, brings a sparkle to all kinds of surfaces. Just spray and whoop-a-hey! I always thought I should be on the telly.
Mr. Sheen, shine the clean, fit clean.
Meet my new friend, Mr Sheen Potpourri.
Not that the archetypal housewife was completely absent from his thoughts. She could sometimes be glimpsed in the background, and on one occasion in 1988 was reduced to a set of Hergé-style clear lines and given what sounds like the voice of Bonnie Langford.
Dusting and cleaning never wiped a smile off my face. With Mr. Sheen, I just fly around the house.
Mr Sheen, ready to shift the dirt, shield the surface, and put on a shine in seconds. Well, we certainly put a shine to that table.
I think I've rather taken a shine to you. Ooh, that's great. I hope it wasn't just a flying visit.
Mr Sheen shifts, shields, and shines in seconds.
Sheen himself is strangely out of focus in this one, inexplicably drawn in black and white, and for a change not voiced by Willie Rushton. This last detail in particular is largely why, despite the bespoke Indiana Jones music, Mr Sheen just isn't very memorable here. Rushton's unmistakable and largely inimitable tones are more or less synonymous with the character, which came to be rather inconvenient when his heart exploded in 1996, striking the tiny pilot largely dumb ever since. He was last seen in live action of all things.
Mr Sheen is back on a new mission to banish dust. Mr Sheen picks up more dust so you can fly through your cleaning. Mr Sheen, back to banish dust.
Of course, some of you out there might be Australians of some kind, watching this upside down. And if you are, you may have spent the last several minutes thinking, what the bloody hell was all that about? That's not Mr Bloody Sheen. Mr Sheen don't ride no bloody aeroplane. He's this pommy bastard with a huge great bald head. Well, my right side up brethren, they're right. Because they're the ones who invented Mr Sheen in the first place. The brand name was invented in the 50s when aerosols began to be sold in Australia. And the original mascot was a bald short ass in a suit who looked a little like John Howard, but spoke with a plummy British accent.
Oh, Mr Sheen, you are just a dream.
There's a sure way to win out over cleaning. Put Mr Sheen in there to fight for you. The easy way to dust each day is simply leave the work to Mr Sheen. Take this can and lightly spray, then wipe over right away. Everything around you comes up bright and clean. Ah, yes, modern furniture looks as brilliant as it's ever been. Wax and polish as you dust with Mr Sheen.
He, and quite possibly the name of the product itself, was inspired by vaudeville, specifically the duo of Gallagher and Sheen, whose famous theme tune provided a steady basis for the advertising.
Say, Mr. Gallagher. Hello, Mr. Gallagher. What's on your mind? Do you remember the little lady dressed in black? I certainly do. She said, hold my baby, please. Place the child upon your knees. But you got angry, and you handed it right back.
I'll say I did.
Oh, Mr. Sheen. Oh, Mr. Sheen. I never knew a child could act so mean. But baby's conduct very soon caused the crowd to hum a tune. Rock-a-bye baby, Mr. Gallagher.
Swanee River, Mr. Sheen.
And I mean steady, they were still using it in the 80s, albeit with a coating of irony by way of hedging their bets.
Oh, Mr. Sheen. Oh, Mr. Sheen. Take a look around this place. It's quite obscene.
No, don't you worry, pet. Grab a cloth and we'll be set. In just a tick, we'll have this place sparkling clean.
Oh, Mr. Sheen. Oh, Mr. Sheen. We really make a quite fantastic team.
First, we'll polish off this top around the piano in just a pop, and a wipe across the tiles will make them clean.
Oh, Mr. Sheen. Dear Mr. Sheen. We're getting through the cleaning like a machine.
Would you believe we're just as fast when we polish off the glass? It's a finish you won't believe until you've seen.
Now, Mr. Sheen, my Mr. Sheen, is there anything at all you cannot clean?
If there is, I wouldn't know. I'll give anything a go. If it's shiny you want, then contact Mr. Sheen.
Let Mr. Sheen polish off your cleaning.
From the positive debacle, now all you see is sparkle, because we polished as we cleaned with Mr. Sheen.
The other well-known cleaning product to have a male frontman is, of course, Mr. Muscle. Now, by the time Mr. Muscle came to the UK in the latter half of the 80s, it was really becoming unacceptable to depict housework as purely a woman's lot in life. Instead, the advertisers went for pure silliness and created a mascot based on every skinny kid to have ever sent away for a Charles Atlas kit in an advert in the back pages of the Beano.
To prove the new Mr. Muscle range tackles the filthiest of jobs with plenty of muscle, we gave it to someone with none. It will devour the greasiest oven. Cold. It restores to new the grimiest of tiles and grouting. In fact, however stubborn a job, it's so powerful it even cuts down on elbow grease. Mr. Muscle loves the jobs you hate.
He became so popular that he ultimately took on the name of the product itself, Mr. Muscle, even though the original set of adverts deliberately makes the point that he is absolutely not that thing in any way.
To prove once more you don't need muscle to use Mr. Muscle, our man tested our non-smear window cleaner with added vinegar. He then tested our new foam action carpet stain remover. As you can see, Mr. Muscle makes just about anything disappear. Mr. Muscle loves the jobs you hate.
The actor is one Gerald Home, best known for playing a squid bloke in Return of the Jedi. A couple of them, actually. Here's his finest hour.
Admiral, we have enemy ships in Sector 47. It's a trap.
No, he's not Admiral Akbar. He was the one in the corner who said they got Klingons off the starboard bow or whatever. Anyway, back in his human guise, he portrayed this character, let's just call him Mr. Muscle, for several years.
You already know you don't need muscles to use Mr. Muscle non-smear window cleaner. Now we'll prove Mr. Muscle no-rinse bathroom cleaner is just as tough. Mr. Muscle loves the jobs you hate.
In such a generic role, skinny nerd in t-shirt and pants, that for a while it survived his departure without too much trouble. Although none of Gerald Holmes' successors in the role could quite match his beatific expression as he cleans a window or bath with supernatural ease. Eventually, though, the British mascot was superseded by an international one, whose adverts were redubbed in multiple accents and languages and standards of competence, and who misses the point completely.
Mr. Muscle, super scientist.
Oh no, it's such a mess. I need help.
I've got just the solution.
Mr. Muscle!
That's right. Mr. Muscle Kitchen Cleaner. It's scientifically formulated to help tackle tough grease and leave surfaces sparkling clean.
Wow, thanks, Mr. Muscle.
No, thank you.
Mr. Muscle, I need help.
Gotta go.
Bye, Mr. Muscle.
Mr. Muscle Kitchen Cleaner, the science of tough cleaning.
A powerful man rushing to the aid of helpless domestic women. How modern.
Dirty floors are no problem with new Mr Muscle Floor Cleaner. It wipes out grease and grime and fights germs too. And as for those greasy little marks, new Mr Muscle Multi-Surface Polish. It cleans clean through just about everything, because Mr Muscle loves the jobs you hate.
The next most popular polish is probably Pledge, particularly pleasant on a pine poof or pew, or perhaps a porch on the patio. Pledge. Pledge has been around forever, so that archetype recurs several times in its advertising history.
Are you only getting half the beauty from your wood with your furniture polish? Then try the Pledge beauty test. Your polish may leave a dull or smeary finish, but new Pledge works instantly to reveal the deep down beauty that's in all wood every time you dust and give you a better finish. See the difference? That's real wax beauty. Why settle for half the beauty when you can bring out the full beauty of your wood with Pledge?
Generic as all hell, I trust you'll agree. The operative word here, however, is wood. That was Pledge's selling point. It was the best polish on God's green earth for wood. More wax than Graham Gouldman and Andrew Gold eating Edam in a severely clogged ear canal. Even its spray cans evoked oak-panelled class. Wood was the theme that Pledge's advertising has tended to circle around, occasionally to the point of obsession.
Treat me nice, treat me good, treat me like you really should. 'Cause I am made of wood, and I do have a wooden heart.
Next time you dust, spray on Pledge. Its real wax formula shines and cares for wood.
Treat me nice, treat me good, treat me like you really should. 'Cause I am made of wood, and it's Pledge for my wooden heart.
Pledge treats wood good.
Was it this needy when it was a tree? I think not. In the early 90s, with Mr Sheen biting hard, Pledge decided to sex up their image. A little. Sort of.
And now for my favourite. Careful. Whoops.
It's delicious.
When the dust settles, Pledge.
In its historical context, this was a time when adverts were getting increasingly noisy and bright to get your attention, as a reaction not only to the fast-forward ability of the VCR age, but also to the rise of satellite and cable and dozens of new channels you might only alight upon for a nanosecond while listlessly browsing with your remote. To pull back with a campaign that played out in near silence was pretty brave, even quite appropriate for its product. And if the scenario is ultimately just another variation on the housewife archetype, at least they're letting her get some dick for a change. Besides, there was another one with a young man that had a very different feel.
When the dust settles,
and you realise you just got off with someone's mum.
Pledge.
These days, adverts for polish and household cleaners tend to centre around the household itself, and how the mess they make is a whimsically joyous expression of life, rather than a mildly irritating but unavoidable consequence of it. And they include such things as single dads. Because dads are celebrated these days as actual parents, rather than just the disciplinarians and the financial facilitators of the love and concern that is actually the mother's job to provide. Although in advert world, to be depicted as a man doing the housework, you do still largely need to be a single dad, or otherwise without access to a woman or woman-like fixture or fitting. To show a man polishing a table despite having a wife to hand and without any kind of trickery, would cause too much cognitive dissonance in the viewer. Ceilings and doors, maybe, but never tables. Well, don't look at me, I'm just pop art. Hey you lovely people, thank you for watching. Do you want to see these things a week before anyone else? Do you want access to even more video essays, random musings, and absurdist close-down based humour? Do you want to read and help shape my new book about the history of the British Broadcasting Corporation? Do you want me to continue to have food and shelter? Well, consider that one a bonus. Support me on Patreon now. Only good can come of it. I promise.